A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the webinar on essential management during COVID-19, your people and your supply chain, organized jointly by Meyer Gudono and Renus Logistics. My name is Anjali Gupta. I head the corporate communication team for Renus India and will be the moderator for today's session. The spread of COVID-19 has affected almost all spheres of human life, be it physical, emotional, or economic. In India, we are all navigating through this current lockdown. Businesses are grappling with this unforeseen crisis. Other than business issues, there are also various people issues at the forefront. There has been a paradigm shift in what the new normal is. We have two very interesting topics today. The first one gives us an update on the current logistics situation in the country and how we can prepare well in order to fix any disruptions in the supply chain to be fully functional again when the lockdown is over. The second topic will throw some light on managing your people in the time of crisis. The how of what you communicate is often more important than the what. Like every other crisis, our society, our communities, and our businesses will emerge from this pandemic more stronger, more resilient, and more innovative than before. But the recovery will be a marathon and not a sprint. Again, a very warm welcome to all of you. I would like to thank each one of you for taking out time. We are truly overwhelmed by your participation and response. Before we begin, I would quickly like to tell you a few ground rules to ensure a smooth webinar. All the participants are in listen-only mode. Questions can be asked in the questions panel on your right side. All questions will be answered during the Q&A allotted time. We will be conducting two polls during the webinar. Video recording will be done from our side. Any presentations or recordings that any one of you may want will be shared by us after the webinar. Happy to introduce our first speaker for this session, Mr. Vivek Arya. He's a well-known figure in the logistics industry. He has been involved in the business for over 33 years and has transformed the family trucking business into a full-fledged integrated logistics company. His flagship company, Renus Logistics India, of which he is the managing director, is a joint venture with Renus, a large multi-billion German-based group. Renus as a group has an annual turnover of 5.5 billion euros, employing more than 33,000 employees globally. The Indian operations of Renus are spread across 69 locations with a team of more than 1,600 people. Under the leadership of Mr. Arya, Renus India has been a recipient of several awards by the government, industry, and several customers. Mr. Arya is an avid reader and travels extensively. So before I invite Mr. Arya to begin his session, we will quickly run a very interesting poll, which you will see right now on your screens. I request all of you to put in your responses. What are your expectations on resuming normalcy in your supply chain? Is it Q2 2020, Q3 2020, Q4 2020, or will it be Q1 2021? Thank you very much for voting. We have about 50% of you who have already put in your responses. We will give it about 20 seconds more before I can share the poll results with you. Please keep giving your responses. Thank you so much. So the last 10 seconds and we share the results of the poll with you. Okay, great. So This is quite an optimistic audience here, where 43% actually believe that we will resume normalcy in the supply chain in July to September, that is Q3 of 2020. Thank you so much, everyone, for voting. Over to you, Mr. Arya.
Yeah, thank you, Anjali. Vivek Arya this side. Yeah, so today I would be talking about managing your logistics better during the COVID-19. These slides have been updated as on this morning, and we are now in the lockdown 3.0. So update for as on today, we know that the lockdown has been extended until the 17th of May. These are some of the key takeaways from the various notifications which we have seen over the last days. So during these times, the movement of individuals for all non-essential items shall remain restricted and prohibited between 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. For containment zones, it is a must to have Arogya Setu app, and for the other zones, it cannot be allowed. So it's a no-go. For movement of individuals and vehicles, it is permitted that 2 people along with a driver, and in the case of 2-wheelers, no pillion driver. This is permitted in all the zones, barring the containment zone. Industrial establishments in urban areas related to special economic zones, export-oriented units, industrial estates, and industrial townships with access control have been permitted, barring the containment zone. Manufacturing of essential goods, including drugs, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, raw materials, intermediaries, production units which require continuous process and supply chain, manufacturing of IT hardware, jute industry with staggered shifts and social distancing, and manufacturing of units for packaging material. All these have been again allowed in all the units, barring the all the areas barring the containment zone. E-commerce activities in the red zones are permitted only limited to essential goods. Private offices can operate with 33% strength as per the requirement and remaining to work from home. Courier and postal services will also be allowed to operate, barring the containment zone. All goods traffic is permitted. No state, union territory shall stop movement of cargo for cross-land border trade under treaties with neighboring countries, which means exports to Bangladesh, Nepal, etc. will move as normal. All other activities will be permitted activities which are not specified or prohibited and which are permitted with restrictions in various zones under these guidelines. So the government has come out with clear guidelines as to what can be done and what cannot be done. This was the central government's notification. Post this, the central government had asked the state governments to come up with their respective notifications, and subsequently various notifications came with the state governments, and additional restrictions have been proposed by the central government. For example, offices cannot be opened in Mumbai MMR region, which is Mumbai Metropolitan Region, even with 33% staff. So similarly, there were further restrictions by each of the state individually. So talking about the lockdowns, so what we have seen, the lockdowns have also resulted in the much needed momentum in the digitization process. This is one of the live pictures from the task force at Renus, which is discussing every day about the developments around us on the logistics space. In future, we see a big challenge of how soon the laborers and the workers working at the ports, ICDs, CFS, airports come back to duty from their hometown, as fear and uncertainty will continue to linger for a long time to come. On the international freight ocean, Port operations are going on with increased level of activity this week. Shipping lines have revised their sailing schedules and contemplating further revisions. Workforce attendance, whether white collar or blue collar or employees or custom officers at CFS and the customs office are better already this week. Both essential and non-essential movements have begun. Decongestion of ports is a top priority for the government, whether Nhava Sheva, Chennai or Kattupalli. On the air freight side, only freighter operations are permitted with limited capacities. Most of the passenger aircrafts have been converted into freighters to add capacities. Decongestion of airport is also on the top priority. Air freight capacities and rates are volatile during these times. Post-lockdown, we believe that there will be a huge surge in the demand while the capacities will remain low in the next months for both air and ocean. Gaps in demand and supply will dominate the pricing. There will be a huge equipment imbalance, and which will be a challenge for both import and export. That means finding the containers. There will be a huge pressure, additional pressure on already stressed infrastructure at the seaports, airports, and CFS, etc. over the next months. These are some of the statistics of the ports throughput. So at Nhava Sheva, for example, this year we had import cargo of 186,000 containers, which was less by almost 50,000 containers compared to last year, April. In April 20, in terms of exports, we had only about 97,000 containers compared to last year of 14,000 containers. Overall throughput has been less by 164,000 containers, which is almost 37% of the volumes lesser. Due to this significant reduction in demand, also at the port congestion, most of the shipping lines are doing blank sailings, which means the sailings have been cancelled by the carriers. Most of the shipping lines have also revised their sailing schedules, and we see a significant pileup at all major ports, and which is the current concern of the government, and they would really want to decongest the port and move all the cargo from the ports and the CFS to factories or warehouses. On the right side, you will see the various vessels which are at the ports. So these are the vessels which have been at the port as on 25th of April. Vessels which are at the berth were 107, all ports including, and vessels which are waiting at anchorage were 128. So none of the shipping lines would like to wait indefinitely, so hence they have started the blank sailings. So at Venus, we are making every effort to minimize the impact on your shipments. We are working with our core carriers, the airline companies. We have secured additional space and commitments from the carriers. We are doing regular movements on key routes. We are also offering air consoles using chartering services, and we are organizing customs clearance of all products at all major airports. Similarly, for the ocean freight, we are working with our core carriers. We have secured additional capacities. We are organizing LCL movements through our own console programs. We are also organizing export shipments for factory stuffed as well as these dock stuffed containers. We are also organizing door-to-door movement for EXIM cargo, and we are organizing customs clearance at all ports across the country. On the customs clearance, the current status is that the customs, ports, CFS, ICD, they have been exempted from the lockdown to facilitate clearance, and this exemption is in place since the lockdown 1.0. However, initially there was a very low turnaround of people at CFS as well as customs, but we see already from starting from this week, which was yesterday, that there is a much better attendance at the ICDs, CFS, and the customs offices. Most of the transactions are being completed online with minimum human interface, and we also see increased activity levels at all ports and CFS. In terms of Renus capabilities, all back office activities such as control tower, documentation, customs filing, and online processing are happening with minimum disruption. We are organizing customs clearance at various ports across India. All necessary permissions are in place. However, the big concern is that most of the port cities are under red zone, and hence we need special permissions to operate. The scenario post-lockdown, we believe that congestion at all ports and airports will take a lot of time to return to normalcy. There will be a huge surge in volumes, needs, and expectations. Manpower will continue to be a challenge. One, because people would be scared, or the fear will linger for them to come back. And secondly, also due to the social distancing norm, there will be a less number of staff at all locations. Renus is equipped to handle larger volumes with all necessary front-end and back-end support in place. And we believe the biggest positive outcome of the lockdowns have been digitization, and this will reduce the human interface. Over the last few weeks, there are portals like Port Community Services, which is PCX 1X, which is integrating all the stakeholders from ports, from forwarders to shipping lines to CHAs on a common platform. We also believe that this will give rise to platforms for issuing e-bills of lading and etc. So these are some of the positive outcomes of the lockdown. In terms of domestic freight, all movements, whether inter or intrastate, have been allowed with one driver and additional person. Empty trucks are also allowed to operate, whether after delivering cargo or for picking up cargo. Railways, airports, seaports, and custom authorities have been authorized to issue passes in the past, but currently no passes are required. Renus capabilities, delivering of essentials pan-India. Non-essential movements also have begun this week. Special permissions have been taken from the concerned authorities, and during these times we are able to provide real-time tracking and updates to our customers. Post-lockdown, we believe the biggest challenge would be the medical certificates for the migrated laborers and drivers. We believe that the drivers and the laborers will take a lot longer time to return back. We just conducted a poll which was very optimistic, which most of the people chose that things will normalize between in Q3, which is from July to September. I will show you in the next slide from what the industry feels about this. Currently, most of the trucks which are operating are actually owner-driven trucks. So the professional drivers are yet to return back to their duties. Sanitization of vehicles as well as drivers and cleaners when they enter the plant and warehouse will be a cumbersome activity. And we believe that there will be a huge commercial impact due to the gap between demand and supply. This is the slide from the poll which was conducted between the fleet owners and the owner drivers. So most of the fleet owners believe that the normalcy in the supply chain will only resume by Q4, which is October to December this year. So majority of them, 51% of them, believe that Q4 would be the time when normalcy starts returning back. On the owner drivers, majority of them do believe that by July to September, things will start normalizing. On the warehousing side, the warehouses and the cold storages are allowed to operate. These stipulations will apply to all areas except the red zones as well as the containment zones. All movements of persons and vehicles shall be subject to strict adherence and norms of hygiene and social distancing. Opening of warehouses have already been relaxed at the beginning of this week. At Renus warehouses, we started the inbound operations for imports where a few weeks back, due to the decongestion of the ports program rolled out by the government, we are currently managing the outbound operations for both essential and non-essentials. We are supporting our customers working in special government projects, coal mining, hospitals, solar energy by doing movement and dispatching material. Post-lockdown, we believe that there will be a huge spike for storage demand across all regions. Mainly, this demand will come from spillovers and temporary storage because most of the customers have cargo lying at the ports, airports, which they would like to move from there to avoid detention damage charges. And we also believe that most of the customers will review their inventory levels. Maybe they move it upwards to ensure that the supply chains don't break in the future. At Renus, every effort is being made to minimize the impacts. During the lockdown, we have been able to offer value-added services to our customers, especially in the food, pharma segment, diagnostic segments. We have worked round-the-clock operations for Ministry of Health. We facilitate in organizing permissions. We did facilitate in organizing permissions from local collectors and authorities. We have been servicing pharma, medical equipment, diagnostics, agrochemicals, and pesticides from the beginning of the lockdown. Post-lockdown, warehousing capabilities across India. So Renus having the capabilities across India. Most of the laborers working at Renus are laborers which come from local regions. So we believe that we will be able to return to normalcy in a lot shorter time. We also have all the social distancing norms in place, and we will require to be operating on 24/7. Our warehouses are equipped with modern material handling equipments, so we can handle larger volumes. And we also have business continuity plans rolled out for all our warehouses. Post-lockdown. So this is a scenario which we believe, or this is a model which we believe everybody will have to follow going forward. So there will be a huge focus on rebuilding the supply chain. There will be a need for strategical involvement of the senior management for making quick commercial decisions. As I said in the past slides, we believe that the gap between demand and supply would be very large, and the capacities being low, there will be a surge in the price. The prices will be very volatile in the next months. So for the customers to book the capacities available, they will need to make quick decisions, and they will have to have a holistic view, and they will have to make a lot of trade-offs. Social distancing will be the new normal. All this is possible subject to documentation of various government directives taking place, repairs and maintenance shops, as well as driver passes being in place, and digitization going full swing by both the government bodies and the private players. So these are some of the steps post-lockdown. So as we will share our presentation, I will not read all of them, but just the key elements. So these are some of the steps to restart the operations post-lockdown. So managing the entry gate and what all is required there, communication through notice boards, operations at warehouse, what needs to be done at management level, canteen level critical activities, emergency response, transportation, training and awareness, sanitization and disinfection, and disposal. So the customers and logistics service providers will have to work on each element to build their business continuity plans. This is a case study, a project which was undertaken, is being undertaken by Renus at the moment. So we are currently doing the customs clearance for masks, ventilators, goggles, gloves, temperature meters, protective suits, PPE kits for the Ministry of Health and Indian Red Cross Society. After clearance, we move them to our warehouse. We do the kitting, packing, segregations, stickering, and then loading onto trucks for dispatches pan-India. So far, we've handled more than 52,000 boxes, which is 52 million pieces. So at Renus, the employee safety is always in the forefront. We have business continuity plans for all our sites and warehouses. We are regularly monitoring the hygiene standards. A task force has been created to manage the situation, and during the COVID-19 days, which the task force interacts practically every day. We are keeping all our employees informed about the official recommendations and the norms to be followed. Fumigation, fogging of all our warehouses, offices are being undertaken. All necessary prevention measures as per WHO guidelines and the law of the land have been followed. And some of the readiness offices are already operations since yesterday under the government guidelines. These are some of the initiatives from Renus to help the business community during the times of crisis. So Renus worked out a very favorable discounted offer for its customers and also general and public. So we understood from the government that the airports in Delhi as well as the ICDs, CFS were congested. So we were offering to our customers, or we are offering to our customers, quick clearances at the ports, ICDs, and moving the product to our warehouse, store there temporarily before the customers can consume that. On the right side of the screen, you would see the community kitchen, which is run by Renus is one of the part stakeholder in running these community kitchens to serve food to the underprivileged and daily wage earners in Mumbai region. Yeah, so that's about Renus and the current logistics scenario, and we are happy to connect pieces in your supply chain where you need us to be. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you very much. Anjali, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Arya, for that insightful presentation. So we already have some questions for you. Can I request you to put your webcam on so that we all can see you? The first question, how can Renus support me in my container exports to Germany?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Renus has regular sailings with the shipping lines. We have allocated space commitments with the shipping lines. So we can definitely organize pickup from any part of the country, moving it to the ports, custom clearing it, and putting it onto the vessels for Germany or any other part of the world. So happy to extend support. Whoever has asked this question, please share our contact details with them, and we are happy to communicate with them.
Sure. The next question, as briefed, there will be a huge demand post-lockdown. This will result in price hikes. Don't you think consumption of non-essentials will scale up as it was earlier, or there will be a hit for demand as COVID-19 has impacted the economy?
Yeah, so that's a question which economists should answer mainly, but I believe personally that once things start opening up, there will be a surge in demand. Whether it's permanent or it's temporary, the time will prove. But and also because there are capacities issues, whether it's trucking, ocean freight, air freight, so there will be an imbalance between demand and supply on the logistics side, due to which there will be a huge surge in the pricing.
Okay. The next question. You mentioned about MMR cannot have offices, private companies at 33% capacity. Is that a confirmed news?
Yeah, that's a confirmed news. MMR is under red zone and containment zone. So there is a circular by the government of Maharashtra, and happy to share that circular with the person who has this query. Maybe offline we could share this circular with them.
Sure. And we take one last question. You spoke about your business continuity plan. What does it consist of, and is it followed till your lowest levels?
So all the parameters which I showed in the slide, they are the parameters under which the business continuity plans are made. And the business continuity plans are rolled out, shared with all the employees. There will be a proper training session around the business continuity plan once everybody is back in the office. However, in the meantime, the facilities which we are operating, whether with the warehouses or the offices, everybody that is present in the warehouse or the office is aware of the business continuity plans and what needs to be done. Even lowest level, even the blue collar labor are aware about the social distancing norm, using the sanitizers, wearing the mask. All these precautions are being taken, and the business continuity plan, yes, it has been drilled down to the lowest level.
Thank you. One more question. Are you looking at using blockchain technology?
Yes, we are looking at that, and as we talk, I have a call tomorrow morning with a couple of service providers in Singapore tomorrow morning, and we are looking at it with great interest. How this technology works, I should maybe share that. So for this technology to be successful, all the stakeholders, which is the shipper, the consignee, the bank, the shipping line, everybody needs to be on a common platform to be able to utilize this platform. So we at Zenus as a service provider will be on that platform, and we will also advocate to our customers to join this platform so that we have seamless issuance of e-bills of lading, and also the customers can transact through the banks with their shippers or consignees using the blockchain technology.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Arya, for those insights. So now we will move on to our next speaker.
Okay, thank you, Anjali. Thank you very much.
So I would like to introduce the next speaker to you, Ms. Deepmala Datta. Deepmala has been supporting foreign companies with the HR issues for almost 20 years. She has developed HR strategies, run organization diagnostics, and executed interventions to create lasting organizational impact. She has also done action research with companies on their key HR pain points, mainly recruitment and retention, and on how ready subsidiaries are to implement Industry 4.0 in India. So over to Ms. Datta.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Anjali, for the kind introduction. I thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. This is where I'd like to just share my perspectives on the topics that have been on everybody's mind recently. I'm sure you would all agree when I say that these have been challenging and interesting times, and both at the same time, actually. Challenges because there is no real set playbook or a toolkit available for us to navigate through what's going to happen. There are no predictions. They have been, nobody really knows what's going to happen, and therefore it makes it even more challenging. Interesting because it's going to make us think hard and really think really hard on what do we need to do and what can we do. And this is exactly what our team at Mayan Vidono has been doing. We have been trying to answer questions for everybody in all parts of the business, all functions. And for everybody here who doesn't know Mayan Vidono, we are a team of business consultants. We support international companies in their India market entry strategies and expansion strategies. We are about 200 consultants across our competence centers in India and outside of India. And yeah, I'm really delighted to present what our perspectives of human resources are today. I'm Deepmala. and I represent Human Resources Department in Mayam-Virono. In this role, I work with clients in addressing their human resource needs and resolve bottlenecks within the organization. I'd like to know you better. Maybe next slide, we have a short poll that we'd like to know. It'll help me know what all you're thinking. So we'll just have a very short poll.
Yeah, so you can see the poll question on your screen right now. I request you to please put in your responses. It says, what are the top 3 things on your mind? Profitability, supply chain, HR, production, service delivery. Thank you for your responses. So we have about 25% of people who have already put in their opinions. We will give it another 20 seconds before we share the poll results with you. Yeah, please keep voting. We have about 65% who have already put in their votes. Thank you very much. And the last 10 seconds before we close the poll, please. All right, so now on your screens, you can see the very interesting responses the audience here gave.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, so writing this, Deepmala, over to you, please.
Thank you so much. This is a survey that was done by Boyd and Moore. It covered the companies across the Apex region and more or less reflecting of what we just did as a live poll. Almost exact, if I was to say. And this is where things have become even more interesting. And let me just see, when I looked at this data, this is what came to me, that people matters and people topics are going to get impacted. Everybody does realize that. And it's also something that is occupying a lot of business heads' mind spaces. This is interesting because earlier it was always about customers over employees, and human resource professionals like us struggled to give importance to internal customers. And it was always something like output over input. So now when we look at this, a lot of attention has been put on employees and what are they saying over our customers. Please don't misunderstand me. This is not about discounting the customers or the importance of customers, but relatively speaking, we are taking more interest in overall employees' state in times like this and during the lockdown and pandemic versus our customer relationships. There is also no clear indication as to when, how the market will open up, what would the production look like. When is that? While about 75% of us believed that by Q3, Q4 in total, we should be able to see some normalcy. But you know, we don't know when the situation will really come back to normal. When the economy picks up, should the government have extended lockdowns? Are just questions which are great to ponder over. I took this a step further. I connected to a lot of my HR networks to know that what are their priorities, what are they focusing on, and this is what they had to say. So this is how the chart looks like. Of course, yellow and green means from a priority. It doesn't mean deprioritized, but just means from so much to do, what took precedence. If you would see, a lot of time was spent in last 45 days. We spent a lot of time getting our basics right in terms of well-being and safety of employees. There was a focus on individual teams' well-being became absolute paramount. Activities like sanitization, proactively going ahead and collecting health data, securing of the business data, and providing secured networks were the need of the hour. Making sure that working from home was now becoming a reality and is productive enough. There was also continued focus on use of a lot of HR tools like eConnect portals, helplines were getting created. There were apps being created quick and fast for employees to keep reporting their health and connections and so on. There were a lot of industries that experienced their contractual labor workforce, their contract manpower moving back to hometowns. So these were the difficult times, and that is how the last 45 days have been spent. The next biggest bucket was communicating and make of what are the right things happening in the organization, how does it impact them, what is that the leaders are willing to do. And over this time, we saw that engagement and communication actually increased in organizations, I would say about 20 folds, where virtual team meetings got a lot of precedence. Leadership started connecting, and that was the most beautiful part of this 45 days, that you saw that the leadership actually connected with families, which I don't think apart from one annual retreat ever happened. So it became more informal, more personal, more engaging. So some things that HR got to facilitate. A lot of upskilling, of course, happened, and upskilling apart from the technical knowledge of what to use, how to use computers, a lot of emphasis was given on that mind shift. How do you enable an employee to start taking his work back home? How do you, and we all know Indian homes are not so large to have a home office. So helping employees cope up with this new dynamics was a lot where HR teams and professionals spent time building tools and building webinars and so on. Then, of course, there's also a part of HR now when the crisis is almost towards where we seem it's more manageable. In times like this, you have to be careful with the words you use. So I would say it's becoming more manageable, or we are finding ways to handle it, that the shift has come to midterm strategies. And these are all about reevaluating your budgets, how to defer, suspend, freeze absolutely non-critical costs that can help contribute towards the overall financial health of the organization. So a lot of work is happening around that area as well. Recruitments have been frozen. About 60% of the network that I spoke to, they said the recruitments were in absolute freeze. Apart from companies which had completely critical talents to be looked out was where the recruitment teams were scouting out for talent. Compensation and benefits, to each their own. So let's move forward. Introspection was one thing that this lockdown gave us, and I did so too. So I looked at 4 things that impacted my work, and I hope, and these were positives. I looked at everything and said, okay, what were the 4 positive things that happened, and can we sustain it in organizations? And these are my perceptions, really. So this is what happened. The proverbial caterpillar morphed into a very beautiful butterfly. We adopted and adapted both at the same time overnight. When I look at this, I feel that it was such a waste of time when organizations have to do a large scale change, that they do project teams, that they sit down and do project planning that goes across spreadsheets. They have cascading teams, then they have train the trainer teams, and so on and so forth. So it is worth reevaluating that here is a team of professionals who can adapt overnight, who have taken up technologies that must have taken companies very long to establish. So instead, just do it. I feel that is a mantra the organizations could look at. The second being that, like I said, a lot of perceptions changed. We became more perceptive to our environment. We became more aware about things. Sanitation. I just take a minute to say it's a basic human need. We just became aware that it is required, but isn't that basic? So a lot of perceptions, awareness changed about things, about people, about circumstances, families. And it's like managers got injected overnight with compassion. They started understanding the whole person and his environment, and and therefore their engagements were far more richer and deeper than just at transactional and superficial level. There was also something that I witnessed, that all the spreadsheets, all the project planning, all the predictions, all the best laid plans had come to a knot. This is VUCA in the real sense. It is VUCA in the action. I will share an experience. I was talking to somebody and my client said we were 97% close. You know, the last 1.5 weeks, we would have achieved the targets. This is how unpredictable things were. They could have closed a financial year with a 100% achievement. And small things have cropped up. You will see a lot of entrepreneurial skills and reaching out to society and have started happening. There's a group of cafes and you will say it's not related to my industry, but I'll come to that later. There's a small group of cafes, and this is, when I say cafes, it's competing business in Delhi, who got together and said, okay, the times are tough. We have to support people. We have to support our salaries. What can they do? Apart from the fact that they created a fund, they looked at the costs together, and they listed down activities they could start sharing. Today, they have a content writer who's shared. They have e-commerce team that is shared. Today, they're also looking at digital marketing as a shared resource. So a lot of innovation is already happening. And that's where I feel that agility and that collaborative ecosystems could be something we should love to sustain. And this also, the beautiful thing happened was education. I read a research, I was reading somewhere, it said education leaped to cover the last 20 years in just 40 days. What they could not do with technology, they've done it in 40 days. My 2.5-year-old daughter is invited to attend her daycare virtual classes every day. My sister is a teacher. She delivers her regular classes via Zoom every day. And to many of us who have undergone e-courses and certifications, free or whether sponsored by company, available to us across platforms. This is the importance of learning. The importance, ease, acceptability, and credibility of learning through e-platforms should be something we can leverage for the times to come, and we'll maybe possibly share some ideas around it. The challenge will be in sustaining these positive changes. And like all human behaviors, human beings, we will go back to our normal way of thinking, normal way of responding to issues. Let me explain what I mean. There's an acquaintance who's a cancer survivor, and while she was undergoing treatment, she said it was a life-changing process. My view about life, my view about things changed, what I wanted to do with my life changed. But she says, I have to continuously and consciously keep myself reminded of what commitments I made to myself during that period when life has become normal now. So will we sustain, will the leadership, will the businesses build systems to sustain this change, or would we come back to a normal behavior? If we've seen results out of these positive changes, if we've seen some positivity, then we should retain it. That brings me to the next slide, which is really about what will happen post-lockdown is over. Maybe we can move to the next slide. So I have categorized all my assumptions under 3 heads. There will be new norms, and everybody is talking about what the new normal will be. There will be increased productivity and also some related matters around productivity, and there will be a huge focus given on talent segmentation. Just before the lockdown gets over, I think we will spend a substantial time, and this is where leaders and business heads are going to spend a lot of time talking to the employees. This will be time spent in preparing people, preparing their workforce to be physically and mentally start gearing up to come back to work. A lot of our industries have seen workmen, employees gone back to their hometowns, and it was also touched by my co-panelist. It will be a physical challenge of a lot of planning to bring those people back. More so, working with employees' state of fear, whether stated or not, by them or by their families, that fear will be there. What if I go tomorrow? We don't have a medical way of handling this. What will happen? What if I was to contact this? What does happen to my family? I have a small child, and so on and so forth. So I think before the lockdown really we start talking business, there will be a lot of mobilization of emotions that will start happening here, and that's where leaders will have to spend a lot of time, including your HR partners. They will take that time investments. Now coming to what will my assessment be of the new norms? Of course, there is no brainer to say that work from home is going to become a reality. All those managers who thought people don't work from home are up for a rude shock. I've had people who say we are dying to go back to work just because we want to work less. There's so much of work that has happened during this time. So they will be, HR teams will structure a flexible working, work from home, telecommuting policies. At the same time, it will not be immediate because we are still under the government directives of how do you bring your workforce back. So it may be in terms of, will it be a phased out until you come to 100% occupancy in your offices. Digital roadmaps for all functions. Technology is going to be our next ask. All function heads are going to start looking at digitizing their processes and looking at technologies to support them. AI is going to be for sure something that human resources will adapt very quickly. How do you create a virtual interview simulation will definitely be next on the cards. Data accessibility, security issues will become prime importance. A lot of CIO time is going to be spent in how to safeguard your data, your cloud applications, and so on. Travel is not going to be the next normal, and as far as I see, that Q3 is what it was estimated. So it comes down to the end of the year that travel will not get normalized. So what happens to sales teams? What happens to service teams? There will be a new norm created for them, new ways of functioning. Maybe there will be sales pitches done on Zoom. Maybe there will be virtual customer connects created. They could also be use of technologies and customers made more independent to start resolving their after sales or the service issues. Maybe something that we can learn from IT, a level 1 will be given back to the customers to start managing. And we have done it. In the last 45 days, we've been the plumbers, we've been the electricians, we've been everybody. So there is a possibility that a lot of after sales service teams will undergo a transformation in terms of how work is done. I feel gig employment and part-time employment will become the norms. And this is where I can be shot in my head by saying this, but I feel industry 4.0 will take an impetus. I feel a lot of manufacturing will start investing a lot in the 4.0, which was a very which was at a snail pace, may see impetus. On productivity, like I said earlier, that a lot of teams felt that they have done more work had they done from office. With this, it has also, and why did productivity increase is because of focus. Meetings started to end on time. Meetings were more productive, more effective, they were action oriented. So with that behavior in mind, I do see that a lot of focus will bring new ideas, more evolvement of roles, thinking, processes, systems, that the roles will get enlarged. Also, productivity, with the fact that working from home will be a norm, will become more clearer. What is expected? It will be output driven. It will be more defined KPIs and not like 35 spreadsheets to calculate your sales incentive. But it will be more crisp and concise. And leadership will have a difficult time because they'll be synchronizing all these efforts across teams. And they somehow will be forced to build an autonomy in the roles. That would therefore enhance a lot of productivity again. All decisions made from anybody, whichever function, will now have greater focus on ROI-based decisions, whether they are investments or expenditures. Cash is going to be important and monitored closely. So anybody who is able to show real returns will be the king. In talent segmentation, I feel because hiring is on a freeze, because there will be limited opportunities for talented employees outside of the companies, and companies will also become very specific of what do they need for the future. Of course, competencies will change, and this 45 days has taught us that who were the front runners for us. The talent will start getting viewed, and leaders will be forced to start thinking of talent at an organizational level and think beyond their functions. They will have to see which talent is what I need for my organization. And of course, hiring tools will change, and you will be more assessment based. More, I love saying this, but it'll be more what you have done rather than what you can do kind of recruitment decisions that will happen. With these opportunities presented, I think it's an opportunity being presented even to an employee to stand out from the crowd. He needs to rethink, he needs to refresh himself, realign themselves, and start holding themselves more accountable for the deliveries for the organization. And people who do that will be observed by the organizations. They will be segmented better. They are the ones who will be identified for next big things happening in the organization. Yeah, maybe we move to the next slide. I have always been asked, and this is everybody's favorite question, what will happen to compensations? I have lots of disclaimers here, but I will only begin in one by saying a lot of companies have their own approaches to compensation in times like these. It's like the different strokes for different folks. And organizations are looking at two things only. They are looking at what is their financial health and what is their team. And then deciding what they need to do about compensation. Having said that, I don't want you to walk out thinking, what do I do? So just giving you a very, very 20,000 feet view of what is happening in compensation. Increments, more or less, I would say about 60% of the companies I spoke to have deferred increments. They have not reduced the budgets of increments. And that is for majority of companies who've said they are not reducing any budgets of increments. However, yes, the reality is they've been deferred. Unless the companies had already rolled them out as per their last, whatever their financial reporting periods were. It is also believed that increments for the top level, which is senior management to leadership, is going to take a dent. This is the segment, or this is the pool which is leading by example. They are taking pay cuts. What is guaranteed is for all companies that I spoke to, close to about 80% companies did say that they are ensuring there are no pay cuts for non-management and junior staff. And the recent news about Bajaj, it's an automobile giant who has pulled back its decision for pay cuts. So a lot of these changes are happening as we speak, and as people are coming closer to the actual working. What is nice that I've seen, and from a compensation package perspective, a lot of focus has been given on benefits like health insurances. Companies who did not have parents being covered under have now suddenly started looking at that as a benefit from a consciousness perspective, that let's do something and extend ourselves for a family. So that's very heartening. These decisions about salary, increment, bonuses, let me say, again, are based on companies' financial standing. Similar to previous years, I mean, every time you did have a lot of industry trends available for you. You did have KPMG, Mercer, and so many other organizations who did compensation trends. But they are trends, and in times like this, they are no good to us because our books have to show the trends for us. So yeah, and this is something that we have been very actively over the last week and a half got in engagement with the clients, that we are proactively seeking them for a council to talk about these matters. And of course, we look at the entire thing in toto with whatever their projections are, and then build a plan for them which is sustainable, motivating, and still gets the employee on high level of productivity. least I say these are challenging times. There is no taking away from them. Next slide. And this is kind of bringing me to a conclusion that the times are tough. There is no toolkit to work with. There is no predictability of what will happen. There is expectations from employees. There are your own expectations as well. So what is happening in this entire 45 days and the times to come? There are three or four things that are emerging. And it's like, if you are a team member, what is working for us is if you stay composed, if you're optimistic. And we did this study, we checked with teams on the scales, traits like composure and optimism, and we came out that teams who scored very high on these aspects have a high chance of succeeding and bouncing back. And we tallied it to the last ever business crisis they experienced. So when we did this, we found that composure and optimism were the two things that were making teams bounce back faster. From a leadership perspective, we asked a lot of employees, we asked a lot of teams to say what was making them connect. And leadership who was sharing information authentically, was handling a lot of conversations with empathy and compassion, were rated higher on a trust factor. They trusted the leadership to help the teams and companies bounce back. This is possible only by these things: compassion, authenticity, and the fact that optimism. So, and these will be a couple of few things that you will experience immediately when you announce that you have to start your work from home. So without taking much time and concluding my topics here, we did sit back and build a toolkit. We built a toolkit for CHROs/business leaders on how to start the day one. What are the things they could do pre or the run up to the day one post lockdown. So we are happy if you do go back, write to us. We'll be happy to share those and work with this toolkit with you and see how it works for you, and maybe if required customize it a bit as well. I leave you with this, and this is an important lesson we've learned from Army, that bonds that were formed in trenches really stand the test of time. So thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Datta, for those interesting insights on people during this time. So we have a few questions for you. Can I request you to put your webcam on? Yes, thank you. We can see you.
Thank you. Thanks, Anjali.
All right. So the first question, according to you, what is the most important role of an HR manager during these times?
I think we always felt our roles were important. It's just that now a lot of businesses have come back and starting seeking opinions, and handling the emotions, handling the sentiments, the underlying fear of whether security in terms of health and job are becoming so important, and these cannot be done without a leader. So these are the two things that we've spent a lot of time talking to leaders and working with leaders and addressing matters with the employees. So the underlying sense of fear of loss of job, fear of health security, general security, well-being of their families.
Great, thank you. We have another question. Will this create more opportunities for salespeople at remote locations in near future?
I would believe so. I would believe so, because if I was to just go by the trends, I don't know when the next metros are going to open up. I mean, where is the urban consumption? If I'm not wrong, and please call me out if I am, so about 30 to 40% of your large consumption is coming from, say, Mumbai. That is in a state of lockdown. It is a red zone, followed by Delhi. And they are also your transition ports, or by land, they are connecting other states. Yes, the opportunity will be tier 2, tier 3 and rural urban classes, and maybe rural markets. There is a lot of opportunity. Thinking out of the box is what's required.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions actually coming in. We will take about 2 or 3 questions more because we're running out of time. So here is a question which says, when you say that increments are deferred, will the cycle be changed in 2021, or whether the deferment will happen this year and the employees will be paid arrears?
Both are happening. Both are happening. And companies who follow a fiscal year appraisal cycles and the arrears were due to be, or the increments were due now, they would have seen new salaries, are experiencing deferred. And to those companies, when we asked, they said yes, there will be an arrear being accumulated. We also have to be cognizant of the fact, will the arrears be paid out at a lump sum when the times are right, or will it be also paid out in installments? And yes, so both are true. So one section which says the arrears are getting accumulated and to be paid later, and there's also a section that says we may tweak our performance appraisal cycles altogether.
All right. The next one says, what is going to be the role of HR in the post-COVID scenario, as the companies will get impacted due to lower profits, job losses, roles becoming redundant, lower employee morale, digitization, automation, etc.?
I would really want to talk to this person who posted this question. It sounds so grim. It is not so bad. I mean, yes. Okay, so let me not make it minuscule. Yes, the times are challenging. I won't say that the morals are going to be down, because they have always been. I mean, when you had a bad year of business, what happened to your morale? What did HR do then? I think the times don't change here, but yes, the only other factor that we can't fathom is the unpredictability about it. But for the HR's role, a lot will happen. Organizations are seeking a council to talk about how do we make our organizations more agile. And agility requires a lot of deep thinking into how will you be presenting, what is your go-to market strategy for your customers, how do you want to, what are the things that you want to stand for, how much of automation or digitization or technology adoption you want to do in an organization to redesign your organization. So our hands are fuller. Apart from the fact that these are long-term strategies we are thinking about, there is mid-term of how do we get people mobilized, how do we pay them enough to keep them motivated. And they are the sentiments of employees that we spend time. Like, just to share an example, my husband starts work tomorrow, and there are questions of what are the protocols we need to follow when he goes out of home and comes back to home. So similarly, a lot of employees have these concerns, their families have these concerns. So we are spending time talking to them about it as well. So we are busy.
All right, one more question. What does one do with non-performers in these times?
It's the most difficult question to say. There will be two aspects, and that's where leadership will take a call. There are two options available for you, two choices. Be an opportunist, use this time to resize your high potentials in the company, or take that ethical route and say, okay, I am willing to work this person. Let's give some roles which are back end. Let's help this person sail through this time and be aware that he's a non-performer in an organization. See, one of the biggest things that managers fail to do is that we believe we are working with unaware people. We are not. We hired adults. So we assume half of them already know what the problem is. But we fear from that conversations to happen. And here is where I would encourage, if you do have non-performers in your team, now is the best time to talk to them, to make them aware, to set up a plan for them. Yeah. Right.
So we take one last question, Ms. Datta, because we have many more, and we then connect with them one-on-one after the webinar. Last one, any tips for the organization for the post-lockdown scenario?
Yes, there are many. In fact, we all put our minds together and we've created a toolkit. We are still working on it, but the toolkit is almost ready. We are just trying to put some nuances of every state and every sector or industry in place. We'll be happy to share that toolkit. This toolkit typically talks about topics of how do you get your office physically ready. What are the things that you do? For example, do you have a route to your office created? How do you create containment zones within your office? How do you help workers come back, employees come back? How do you manage your shifts? How do you manage social distancing at the times when the employees have to come out? So all of that has been detailed. We'll be happy to share it. So I think once anybody writes back to us, we'll be happy to share that toolkit.
Great. In fact, one of them is already asking for the toolkit, so we will send it to them for the webinar.
I'll be happy.
Yeah?
I'll be happy to bring them out. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Datta, for your insights and answering all the questions beautifully.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Thank you.
Thank you. So we come to the end of the webinar. So on behalf of Meyer Gudono and Venus Logistics, I would like to thank each one of you for taking out time today and logging in to today's webinar. We will share the presentations, the toolkit, and connect with you individually in case of any unanswered questions. Here's wishing the best for you and your families during these tough times. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you very much.